Hey, and welcome back to the NeuroSpicy MomPod. Before we dive into today's episode, I just want to take a minute and say something that's been sitting heavy on my heart. If you've been feeling extra disoriented, scared, heartbroken, or just straight up furious lately, same. There has been a lot of scary, confusing conversations happening, especially around neurodivergence. And honestly, it's overwhelming. You're not crazy, you're not too sensitive, and you're definitely not alone. If you ever need someone to vent to, someone who gets it, my DMs are always open, and this community is here to hold you, not judge you. So take a deep breath with me. Okay, let's get into it, because today we are talking about something deeply personal: family gaslighting, scapegoating, and why so many of us, especially in the neurodivergent community, get stuck in those painful dynamics. If you're new here, I'm your host, Austin Marie. I'm an ADHD autistic mama, a psychology nerd, and your personal hype girl for all things messy healing and neurospicy life. Around here, we believe in nervous system safety, conscious parenting, and the radical idea that you don't have to be normal to be worthy. So go ahead, grab your comfiest blanket, maybe a snack, and let's get into it. Let's start with the basics. What is gaslighting? Yes, it is one of those pop psych words that suddenly everyone started using, but that doesn't take away from it being a very real and very dangerous thing. Gaslighting is psychological manipulation. It's when someone tries to make you question your own memories, your feelings, or even your reality. And if you've never been through it, it's easy to think, oh, I know if someone was messing with my head. And sometimes, yeah, it is obvious. But a lot of the time, it's not. It often starts small, subtle, little comments here and there. But when it happens repeatedly over an extended period of time, you don't even realize you're starting to mistrust yourself. You start doubting your gut. You start second guessing what you know you felt. And over time, it chips away at your ability to trust your own reality. In families, it hits even harder because when you're little, you need your caregivers to survive. You are wired biologically to stay attached to your parents, even if that means ignoring your own gut feelings. That's attachment theory 101. Safety is greater than truth for a child, always. And if you grew up neurodivergent, you are even more vulnerable to it. Because think about it. If you're someone who thinks literally, you might have believed everything you were told, even when it didn't feel right. If you feel things intensely, it was easier for people to say you were too sensitive, and suddenly your emotions became the problem. If you already struggled to trust your own inner voice, well, gaslighting just dug the hole even deeper. You might have even heard things like, "It wasn't that bad. You're being dramatic. You remember it wrong. You have a terrible memory. You always make everything about you." And if you're sitting there nodding along, like, "Yep, heard all of that," I want you to know it wasn't because you were broken. It was because someone needed you to doubt yourself in order to stay in control. Now, this is getting a little niche, but if you're also first gen, like myself, or first generation raised in a new culture, holy extra layers. In a lot of first gen families, there's this deep survival narrative. We've sacrificed everything for you. We worked so hard so you wouldn't struggle. And when that's the story, there's almost no room for you to say, hey, actually, I'm struggling anyways. Because struggle feels like betrayal. Needing accommodations feels like weakness. Asking for mental health support? Forget it. That's luxury talk. Therapy for rich kids, not for survivors. So if you're neurodivergent on top of being first gen, you learned real fast that you needed to mask. You needed to be easy, normal, grateful. You learned that your needs were too much, your feelings inconvenient. And here's the other layer nobody talks about. Your family was also trying to survive in a culture they didn't fully understand. They were under huge pressure to assimilate, to blend in, to be normal, to seem safe. For a lot of first-gen families, that meant whitewashing themselves as much as possible, adopting the behaviors, appearances, and norms that would make them seem acceptable in white American society. So when you showed up with big feelings, big needs, and a brain that worked differently, it didn't just feel inconvenient. It felt threatening because anything that can make you stand out could feel to them like danger. And when you grow up in that weird, painful space where you're disconnected from your own culture, but never fully accepted by the dominant one either, the message you internalize is brutal. You don't belong anywhere. You don't know enough or have access to the culture you came from, and you're too different for the culture you live in. You learn to mask, to shapeshift, to shrink yourself just to survive. But deep down, you're carrying this aching, invisible truth. You don't fit anywhere. There's no safe place for me to just be myself. And the science backs this up. Studies show that ND kids in first-gen households have way higher rates of masking, depression, and complex PTSD because you're being asked to erase yourself just to keep the peace. And let's be real, when your nervous system is constantly bracing for impact, when your heart feels unsafe in your own family, of course you start questioning yourself. Of course you start wondering if you're just broken. You're not broken, babe. You're just tired of carrying other people's projections. All right, so what do we do about this? First, let's be real. Setting boundaries feels terrifying at first. Your brain literally interprets it as a threat to survival. Your body might panic, shake, sweat, get nauseous, because somewhere deep down, your nervous system thinks, if I upset the tribe, I will die. Not dramatic, literal, ancient brain wiring. But the fear isn't the truth. The fear is the old wiring. You can feel the fear and still set the boundary. Here are a few scripts you can use. Feel free to borrow, tweak, or scream into a pillow if needed. I'm not available for conversations that rewrite my experience. I deserve to heal, even if you don't understand it. It's okay if you see it differently. I'm still allowed to honor my truth. Start small. Maybe you don't go full no contact right away, or ever, your choice. Maybe you start with leaving a family event early, changing the subject when they try to gaslight you, simply saying, I'm not comfortable talking about that. Every small boundary you set is an act of self-respect. And just to be clear, you are not abandoning your family by protecting yourself. You are returning to yourself, and that is sacred. Sometimes we don't just experience gaslighting from family when we're young. Sometimes we walk right into it again in adulthood. Because when your brain is wired for survival, chaos can seem familiar. Manipulation can feel like love. And suddenly, you're back in survival mode without even realizing it. If you're noticing things like every disagreement ends with you apologizing, even if you brought up something that hurt you, you're thinking about recording conversations just to prove to yourself that you're not making things up, you're actually threatening to record conversations because you feel so unheard and confused, you're journaling or keeping notes after fight because you know you're going to be told it didn't happen the way you remember. You're using your phone calendar to track fights, apologies, incidents, basically keeping a running log of emotional data. Those are not normal relationship things. Those are survival tactics. Those are strategies your nervous system comes up with when your reality is constantly under attack. And if you're doing these things, it's worth asking yourself gently, lovingly, bravely, is this a relationship that's safe for me? Is this relationship helping me trust myself or forcing me to lose myself? Because you deserve more than survival mode. You deserve relationships where you don't have to gather evidence to prove you were hurt. You deserve to be believed the first time you say that hurt. You deserve peace without receipts. And if nobody ever told you that before, I'm telling you now, you're not crazy. You're just waking up, and waking up is powerful. And once you start waking up to this, you start seeing just how deep the roots go, which is why it's so important, not just for yourself, but for the next generation to start talking about it early. Because gaslighting thrives when we doubt ourselves. It dies when we trust our own reality. Here's how you can start recognizing gaslighting in real time. You find yourself constantly second-guessing your memory or judgment. You apologize all the time, even when you don't know what you did wrong. You feel confused after conversations, like somehow you're always the problem. You minimize your own feelings because you're told you're overreacting. If you notice these signs, pause. Check in with your gut. Your body knows when something feels off, even if your brain is still trying to explain it away. And with your kids, you can start teaching them early that their feelings and perceptions are valid, even if we don't always fully understand them. Simple things you can say like, I believe you. Your feelings are important. It's okay to tell me if something doesn't feel right, or it's safe for you to trust yourself. We're not just healing ourselves here. We're planting seeds so that our kids don't have to unlearn survival mode later. We're creating a new legacy. Okay, my loves, thank you for hanging with me today. This was a heavy one, and it is brave work, and I'm proud of you for being here. If today's episode hit home and you're craving more safe community, validation, and messy healing, you're invited to join the NeuroSpicy Squad on Patreon. For just $5 a month, you get bonus episodes, behind-the-scenes chats, and a whole lot of NeuroSpicy love, because healing is easier when you're not doing it alone. You can find the link in the show notes or just search the NeuroSpicy MomPod on Patreon. And remember, in case nobody said it to you today, you are not too sensitive. You are not too much. You are exactly enough, exactly how you are. Sending you the biggest, fiercest, warmest hug. See you next week. Ta-ta!